Finally, after enduring over 4 years on the blanket protest and subjected to unimaginable barbarities, 7 Republican prisoners in the H blocks, 6 IRA volunteers and 1 INLA volunteer decided to embark on a hunger strike to protest the horrendous prison conditions and to regain recognition of their status as political prisoners. On October 27, 1980, they began their fast and announced their protest with the following statement: "The birth pangs of a nation are terrible, and we, her children, must once again bear her suffering. We have come in search of a 32-county socialist republic." The prisoners had 5 basic demands: the right not to wear a prison uniform, the right to free association with other Republican political prisoners and to organise educational and recreational facilities, the right not to do prison work, and the right to normal visits, letters and parcels, and the restoration of 50% remission on sentences lost through the protest. These were by no means unreasonable demands and had been the norm for all political prisoners prior to the removal of special category status. On December 1st, 3 women Republican prisoners in Armagh jail also went on hunger strike. Later in December, 30 more prisoners joined their comrades on hunger strike in the H blocks. Believing that an agreement had been reached between the hunger strikers and the British government, Bobby Sands announced the end of the hunger strike on December 18, 1980. However, the British government reneged on the agreement and the prisoners were back where they started. The duplicity of the British set in motion a dynamic that would have tragic, heart-wrenching consequences. On March 1st, 1981, IRA prisoner Bobby Sands began another hunger strike. On April 11, he was elected to the British House of Commons, the British Parliament. His election drew worldwide attention to the plight of the hunger strikers and brought international pressure to bear on the British government, led by Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who remained resolutely intransigent. I'd like to take this opportunity to praise the massive support for the hunger strikers and the work that was done by the support groups here in the United States in the face of the evil axes of Reagan and Thatcher. I'm glad to see that there are still those throughout the United States and certainly here in Chicago who are continuing to keep the freedom flame well lit. On May 5th, after 66 days on hunger strike, Bobby Sands died. His funeral was attended by over 100,000 mourners, testifying to the mass broad-based support for the hunger strikers. On hearing the news of Bobby Sands' death, the Indian Parliament in New Delhi stood for a minute's silence as a mark of respect. 9 other prisoners, 6 IRA and 3 INLA volunteers would die during the 6 months following Bobby Sands' death. Dozens more prisoners would eventually join the hunger strike protest, and 2 of them would be elected to the Irish Parliament. The 9 other hunger strikers, you've just heard their biographies, were Francis Hughes, Raymond McCreish, Patsy O'Hara, Joe MacDonald, Martin Hirst, Kevin Lynch, Jane Doherty, Thomas McElwee and Michael Devine. The way in the Irish Republican Socialist movement often use the slogan, "Let the fight go on." These were the dying words of Patrick Patsy O'Hara from Derry City, the leader of the INLA prisoners in the H blocks, who died on May 21st after 61 days on hunger strike. The night before Patsy died, his mother Peggy was alone in the prison cell with her son. Her husband James was not allowed into the prison. It was a little after 10 o'clock at night, and when Peggy O'Hara was told that her husband had been refused admission, she said to herself, "Dear God, must I bear the burden of this night alone?" She asked if she could sit a while down the hall with the McCreish family for company. The McCreishes were keeping vigil with their son, Raymond, who was also close to death, but the Screws refused Peggy her request. She remained alone with her son, wetting his lips with moist cotton wool and holding his hand. She resolved to save her son's life, and any parent could intervene and sign relevant papers to allow medical attention to be rendered to a dying hunger striker, but she realised she would have to wait until Patsy was unconscious. Patsy must have sensed what she was about, because he looked at her and said, "Mommy, I'm sorry we did not win, but please let the fight go on." I think it was then that she fully realised that her son was going to die, and even if she did intervene, he would go back on hunger strike, although she still considered saving his life. But his words echoed in her mind, "Mommy, please let the fight go on." It was a very long, tortuous night for Peggy O'Hara. In the morning, her husband Jim and her daughter Elizabeth were allowed into the prison, and Peggy was able to get some rest. At 11:29 on the night of May 21st, Patsy O'Hara died. His sister Elizabeth was by his side, and as his life slipped away, she said to him, "You're free, Patsy. You've won your fight, and you're free."